Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to yet another episode of What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility. We're hitting you hard and heavy with new album reviews here today. This is a brand new one from a Canadian band. It's their fifth full-length studio album, and it is on Riseaboverecords, the great record label out of the UK that is famous for putting out stuff from some pretty damn cool, heavy, doomy, stonery psych bands. And this is the latest from Bloodceremony, The Old Ways Remain. If you buy the CD, you should get the slipcase as well, right? Some of these things come with a slipcase. Like I said, fifth album from this band. Let's take a look. If you're not familiar with Bloodceremony, they've been around since the mid-2000s, I believe. Geez, what was their first album? 2006, something like that, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to get this booklet out here. There we go. See that front cover? What does that look like? Looks like a witch, right? Well, people have called them kind of occult rock, witch rock, right? Doom, folk rock, psychedelic rock, stoner rock. I mean, they've got lots of tags. Classic rock, flute-tinged witch rock. That is the band right there. I'll tell you who they are in a second. All their albums thus far have been pretty good to excellent. There they are again. As you can tell by the candelabra, right? They have an element to their music that's a little bit different. I'll tell you who's in the band, right? So we've got Michael Carrillo on drums, congas, and percussion. Aaliyah O'Brien, vocals, flute, Moog synthesizer, electric piano, and Hammond organ. We've got Sean Kennedy on guitars, backing vocals, and Lucas Gatke on bass guitar. And there are some additional people helping out on this album. I do want to mention them. We've got produced by the band and Paul Cajas. Music performed and arranged by Bloodceremony. We've got Laura Bates plays fiddle on one track. Two tracks, actually. Joseph Shabson played saxophone on one song, and Michael Eckert played pedal steel on another song. Plus, we got another person played fiddle on another track. Finch Griffin played fiddle on another song. So, what does this album sound like? So the band, I've always thought that Bloodceremony were kind of like if you bring together Ian Anderson and the guys from Black Sabbath and John Lord from Deep Purple. It's kind of what you get there. Plus with a female singer who's doesn't really sound like anybody else. She has a very unique style. That's kind of what you get. So a lot of their, well, not a lot, they've got 4 albums before this, but much of their earlier catalog is just big doomy riffs, Hammond organ, flute, and these kind of like bewitching ethereal female vocals, right? And some of the songs have a folky vibe as well. Some of them are very psychedelic, very unique, intriguing music. This album is no exception. I will say I think they've toned the kind of the doom metal down a bit. While there are a couple of songs on here that kind of hit pretty hard, for the most part, this is much more playing up the kind of folky and psychedelic vibes of the band, which for some might be great, for others might be less great, right? Depends on how heavy you like Bloodceremony. I would admit, like the first few times I listened to this album, I was kind of a little disappointed it's not as heavy as some of their other efforts. But the more you listen to it, the more you really start to see that, they're just kind of going into all different directions on here. And this is a pretty well-rounded album if you like diversity, if you like variety in your music of this kind. But it's very... There's an element in this. There's a word I'm just not able to grasp when I listen to this album. It's just there's just something about this band that's just really, really different. And I'm listening to this album over and over again. I've heard it now quite a number of times, and it would be like the perfect soundtrack to like a 70s like folk or pagan horror film. Think like an old Hammer film or something like that, like Blood on Satan's Claw or something like that. Like those old like pagan folk horror films, out in the woods, and it's old back in the 1800s and stuff. There's lots of little folk bits on this album, and the flute, of course, lends itself to that. There's the fiddle, right? It's just acoustic guitars, electric guitars on the heavier stuff. let me go through the songs here. We got, I think there's about 10 tracks on here. The Hellfire Club kicks it off. There's a couple tracks too, and I think the first 3 tracks are pretty indicative of that, of this kind of like retro psychedelic 60s rock. Lucifer is dabbling a bit of that into that on their more recent albums. And I think there's kind of similarities with both bands. Both come from more of a doom background and have started to incorporate other things, whereas I think Lucifer is going into like lots of pop and psych, like 60s and early 70s flavored pop and psych. I think this band is doing it too, but coming more from a folk aspect than a pure pop, like, San Francisco pop, psychedelic pop scene, right? This is much more kind of English sounding in a way. Think like Pentangle and, bands like that. So the Hellfire Club, Ipsissimus, and Eugenie all are very hooky, and they rock, but they're not. This is not doom. There's not a lot of doom on this album, to be fair, but they still rock. Really interesting stuff. The flute's great. Maybe there's not as much Hammond organ or organ in general as there used to be on some previous albums, but still really good stuff here. Lolly Willows is very charming. And again, it's got a great whimsical kind of chorus, and it's very folky, very fun. Powers of Darkness, that's a little darker. That's a little doomier, right? I like that quite a bit. The Bonfires of Kumbe, or Bella Kumbe, however you say that. That is also kind of mystical and kind of rock and kind of psych, kind of doomy, but not. Widdershins is the big heavy track on the album. That's pretty terrific, and that takes me back to Blood Ceremony albums of old. Really like that a lot. Great big guitar riffs on that. Excellent stuff. Hecate also pretty damn rocking. Then you got the last 2 tracks on the album, which again are kind of take you back to some of the earlier stuff. You got Mossy Wood, total folky, kind of like Jethro Tull, flute acoustic guitars type of thing. Very whimsical, charming vocals from her. Really like that a lot. And then Song of the Morrow, again, bridges like folk and psychedelia, and again takes you back. If you would have come to me, if I had no idea who this was, and you played me that song, I would have been like, oh yeah, that sounds like something that might have been recorded in like 1969 or 1971 or something like that. And it's a little lengthier piece. Again, lots of flute and psych and even bits of prog influence on there. It's kind of all over the place, but it really works. Very enchanting stuff, very mystical stuff, very whimsical stuff. This is a very cool album. And for those of you who are into lyrics, I think you'll like the lyrical content from this band. I'll read you a little piece here, which I think basically inspired the Widdershins song. What makes you dance, Widdershins, old crone? Said the king's daughter. Here upon the bleak beach, between the waves and the dead leaves, I hear a sound in the wind that is like a sound of piping, she said, and it is for this that I dance winter shins. All right, so let me see if there's anything here I can read for you that will give you, like the Hellfire Club. Come sing with me a tune of devilry, white orchid trees, their shade so heavenly, honored by Venus with gifts of honey mead. Come sin with me, O godlike shall we be, you'll find us there. Come sing with me, join us in revelry, nothing it seems escapes their irony. Comus is reeling, the laughter of a dream, come sin with me, oh what a wicked scene. It's just very occult themed lyrics, a lot of this stuff. Some is a little more whimsical, but Eugenie 1970, what have you brought for me? Never had I thought it possible, one of so young and free. Eugenie, my sweet Eugenie, your heart's not cruelty free. There's more in this than in your philosophy. This, definitely, again, I'm not a big lyric guy, but I find that I'm kind of listening and catching stuff in some of these lyrics that are like definitely a little bit different. And this band has always been kind of like that. So so this is, like I said, I am slightly disappointed that the bulk of this album is not really all that heavy compared to some of their earlier stuff, but it's really intriguing music, and I find that I'm liking it more and more as time goes on, and I'm like just forgetting about the whole, well, it's not that heavy, but it's still really, really good. I'm going to give this today. I think my rating with this after I've had it for a longer period of time is going to rise a little bit. I'm going to give this 3.5 out of 5 star today. I don't think it's quite as crushing and menacing and like just impactful as their earlier albums, but yet I think this is more diverse, and I think in the long run this album might appeal to more people than their earlier ones. I think it's very, very well done. I love her vocals, and I love all the different things that they bring to the table musically speaking. It's maybe a little bit folky for me, but I do like the kind of poppy psychedelic stuff, and of course the couple of numbers that really do rock and are quite heavy. I like those a lot. So, but yeah, Blood Ceremony. The old ways remain on Rise Above Records. I definitely recommend you check this out. Like I said, if you've never listened to these guys before, if you like kind of heavy music with lots of folk influence, I think you'll really dig this. And I would say, sure, start with this one. If you like the doomier stuff, you like heavier stuff, and you haven't listened to them, I would definitely go investigate their earlier albums first and see what you think. But this would not be a bad place to start. Like I said, if you do like folky psychedelic music that has some heavy moments, so check it out. Blood Ceremony. There's the review. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also, we've got the links down below to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, as well as our merch page. So thanks in advance for investigating all that, and we'll see you soon here on the channel with more stuff. I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.